Hello students. Today, now let us discuss about stress physiology, especially water stress and the effect of water stress on plants and the resistance mechanism to the water stress. Let us, recollect the knowledge that we have shared in the previous class, that is absorption of water, how the absorption of water takes place through the roots, and then mechanism of absorption of mechanism of absorption of water and the factors affecting the rate of water absorption. Every living organism on this earth, these organisms will not be having constantly the same continuous congenial climate throughout the lifetime. There are some stressful conditions which are not required for the organism, but even then the organism cope up with the stress and then come back to normal and perpetuate in this environment. So what is this stress? The stress is nothing but external environmental factor that exerts an adverse influence on the plant, or stress that might reduce or adversely affect the plant's growth and its development, as per Levitt 1972. I think now you know about the stress, that is the adverse environmental condition which any plant will come across in its lifetime. Then, what is stress physiology? The study of plant functions under stress or adverse environmental conditions is called stress physiology. It is important to regulate conditions for high growth and productivity because stress induces many abnormal growth conditions which is not required for the growth of the plant. It will hamper the yield and produce with respect to agriculture. So it's very, very important to regulate the conditions for high growth and productivity, avoiding stress. And another important thing that we have to learn is change in the function due to adverse effect of a stress is called strain or biological strain. So strain or biological strain is change in the function due to adverse effect of a stress is called biological strain. The plants will get strained up like how organisms or human beings are strained up. There are two types of strains, elastic strains and plastic strains. Under biological strain, it can be called as elastic biological strains, plastic biological strains. What is elastic biological strain? Changes in plant's function that return to normal when the strain is removed is called elastic biological strain. Example is reduced photosynthesis in plants in response to low light or exposure to duration of light. That is, the time given is very less, and then it will return back to normal rate with the increase in proper light conditions. You know, elastic, the name itself indicates, that is, if you stress it or if you expand it, it will become longer, it will get expanded, and then if you release it, it will come back to normal. So the same condition applies here also. Then plastic biological strain. Plastic biological strain is the changes in plant's function that do not return to normal level even after the strain is removed. Even after the strain is removed, it will not come back to normal. This is plastic biological strain. The name itself indicates plastic means it cannot expand, neither it can expand nor come to the normal level. That is why it is called plastic biological strain. Example is stresses caused due to water deficit and a prolonged drought, frost, heat, salinity for a very long period. Exposure is for a very long period. Then it is a plastic biological strain. What are the effects of stress in plants? What are the effects of stress in plants? The most important in one is the percentage of plant survival. It will be reduced, crop yield is reduced, and then growth of the plants retarded. And finally, if the growth of the plant is retarded, biomass production is also reduced. And then carbon assimilation rate is also reduced. Mineral uptake of by the plants is also affected. Then, how to avoid this stress? Because the stress will be there in the environment almost from time to time whenever there is change in the climatic condition of that particular area. So, if that is the condition, there would not have been any plants on this earth. But there are plants. And why? Because of the presence of some mechanism in the plants to avoid the stress. And the important things are stress tolerance, that is the ability of plants to adjust with stresses, and it depends on genetic composition. And then degree of tolerance. See, the degree of tolerance varies with the species. Some species have a very high degree of tolerance to the exposure to heat or the drought. Some species will not have. And this is also genetically determined. And then environmental factor may be stressful to one species and it may not be stressful to the other species. And then, if tolerance of a plant increases as a result of exposure to prior stress, the plant is said to be hardened or acclimatized. That we have understood in the previous class. That is, whenever uh, the plant is exposed to stress for a very short period of time or number of times exposed to a short period of time, then it will get hardened. That means it, even if it is exposed to the hard environmental condition or stressful condition, it will not get affected. Even it is affected also, even if it is affected also, it will come back to normal. Not much difference will be there in the growth. And then let us consider the difference between tolerance and avoidance. Tolerance is the plant, that is, the plant just tolerates or endures the adverse condition. It just tolerates. Avoidance is plants respond by reducing the impact of environmental stress. That is, the example you can just quote is plant growing in desert might avoid dry soil by penetrating its root deep inside. Or it may not reproduce during this time, during the very high temperature. It will have some seeds or coated seeds. With the hard coat, it will be there under the soil. Once there is a small shower, then it may germinate and produce the seedling. Now let us consider the most important one of this session, that is water stress. The lack of availability of water for plants use is nothing but water stress. What is water stress? That is, the availability of water is reduced. That is nothing but water stress. Whenever the availability of water is reduced to any plant, this induces an imbalance in the plant. That is nothing but the water stress. It leads to water deficit or negative water potential. It is resulted when water content in soil reduces to temporary wilting percentage. What is drought then? The period of water stress is nothing but drought. This plants will be facing almost every year, especially mesophytes will be facing this. You must have seen this throughout the year. I mean, any year for that matter. What is drought tolerance? The ability of plants to survive the water stress is called the drought tolerance. And then we should also consider the physiological functions. Many physiological functions are affected due to water stress. Both respiration and then photosynthesis, both are affected due to water stress. You can see how the drought or water stress has reduced the growth. Here the leaves are not at all there. Here the wilting and also drying up of the leaves. This is an agricultural drought. This is an agricultural drought, and you can see the drought tolerance plant. Even there is a drought, even there is a drought. No, here you can see how the soil is. In spite of that, plants are growing. They are tolerant ones. And then water stress affects many physiological functions that leads to water imbalance, turgidity of leaf cells reduced, and then rate of photosynthesis also decline. Rapid hydrolysis of organic solutes takes place. Cell enlargement is not there. See, for any cell to divide, to grow, water should accumulate inside the cell. It should take up water. But when there is no water, there is no cell enlargement, so no further cell division. Organic substances accumulate in the cytoplasm because there is less water in the cytoplasm. Because of this, the organic substances or solutes will increase its concentration, and then this leads to imbalance or osmotic imbalance. And this salt stress also increases the rate of respiration. On the basis of response to available water, the plants are usually divided into three: hydrophytes, xerophytes, and mesophytes. You must have actually heard about this, learnt about this in your earlier classes, like in PUC or in high school. What are these hydrophytes? The plants growing at places where water is always available, or the plants which are growing in ponds or lakes or water or river or you can say ocean. They are all hydrophytes. Then xerophytes, plants growing at places such as deserts where water is scarce. And then mesophytes, the plants growing at places where water availability is intermediate. That is, the amount of water present or uh, the rainfall will be optimum where the mesophytes are growing. Then let us consider the most important thing it with respect to stress, water stress is xerophytes and mesophytes. They are prone to water stress and they adopt various means to cope up with environmental water stress. See, you can see the succulents. You can see the succulents. I think you know this is opensia and then a desert, or you can say arid condition where the plants here growing are they're without leaves. If the leaves are there, then there will be transpiration. So these plant succulents or cacti, they do not have, or they have very small leaves. Leaves are modified into smaller spines, or they may be scale, but they are all the phylloclades, that is stem has become very broadened and has taken up the function of photosynthesis. Why stem is taking up the function of photosynthesis? Because in the stem there is no transpiration, or very less transpiration is there. So to avoid transpiration, the leaves are reduced and the stem has taken up the function of photosynthesis. And how the xerophytes are drought resistant? Maybe by their protoplasm can just tolerate or endure extreme prolonged desiccation without being killed, or they possess structural or physiological characteristics to avoid or postpone desiccation. So it may be a desiccation tolerance, or it is desiccation avoidance or postponement. It may be by following ways. One by one, let us discuss. Desiccation tolerance will be of the following types. Among xerophytes, some plants such as mosses, lichens, few ferns, and some seed plants have protoplasm which can tolerate or endure extreme water stress. Even the water content is very low, then also they will not get killed. Such plants are said to exhibit desiccation tolerance or hardiness. You can see this is the crustose lichen, and this is the rock. On the rock, it is growing. So in the rock, we find hardly any water. On this, it is growing, and desiccation is tolerated. There is no loss of water. Even in that condition, it is growing. The degree of desiccation tolerance may differ among various species of grasses, shrubs, trees. Next is drought escapers. Any desert annuals, that is, annuals means it will be growing for a period of 1 year, or it completes its life cycle in 1 year. Escape drought by completing their life cycle before severe water stress develops. Maybe in the summer condition, those plants may not be seen at all. Their seeds remain dormant during this dry season. Once the regular shower is there or rainfall is there, then the seeds germinate, grow, and flower. Then water spenders. Some plants, such as palms, growing at an oasis, develop roots that go deep inside, down to the water table, that have roots which extend up to 7 to 10 meters down to the water table, and it aggressively consume water and avoid drought. Such plants are known as water spenders. You can see here the water spenders, that is palm growing in the desert. Water collectors. Under moderate water stress, some succulent plants such as cacti, agave resist drought by storing water in their succulent tissues. This you must have seen in agave. It is very soft tissue is there, in that water is collected. Such plants which use water conservatively are known as water collectors. They collect water whenever it is available because of thick cuticle and stomatal closure during the day. That is usually in many plants stomata opens during day, but in these plants the stomata are closed. So the loss of water is avoided so that they can survive longer period in a continuous drought. Then is water savers, some non-succulent desert plants which show many adaptations to reduce water loss through transpiration, such as smaller lamina or leaf area, sunken stomata, thick hairy covering on surfaces of leaves, and shedding of leaves during these periods or during the period of drought. Such plants are called water savers because they will not have very large leaf area, so that transpiration is avoided. This is the most important thing, that is osmotic adjustment or osmoregulation. Even in animals also it is seen. In animals it is nothing but to maintain the temperature. Here it is to maintain the water level. As a result of increasing water stress in many xerophytes, certain organic compounds such as amino acid proline and sugar alcohol sorbitol etc., accumulate in the cytoplasm of cells. So, here proline is very, very important. These substances lower the osmotic potential and also the water potential of cells, and without it will not damage any metabolic activity or enzyme functions. That is very important. Enzymes will be having normal functions. This drop in osmotic potential helps in maintaining plant water balance, and this is called osmotic adjustment or osmoregulation. Then, water deficit and drought resistance in mesophytes. So far we have studied about the xerophytes. Now, mesophytes. So, and some of the things which we have followed in, which have discussed in xerophytes, may apply here also. But following all the types, we can just see in the mesophytes. That is, first one is decreased cellular growth and leaf area. It is also seen in xerophytes. A remarkable decrease in leaf area and transpiration is the first line of defense against drought in mesophytes. And then inhibition of protochlorophyll formation and enzyme activities. At negative water potentials, protochlorophyll formation is known to be inhibited by in many plants. So protochlorophyll formation is inhibited, and then many enzyme activities are also inhibited. Then accumulation of abscisic acid and stomatal closure. In water stressed plants, abscisic acid increases in leaf tissues. This leads to closure of stomata and reduced transpiration. So this provides resistance to stress. Then stimulation of leaf abscission. Enhanced synthesis of endogenous phytohormone ethylene. Ethylene is a abscission hormone. So the enhanced synthesis of endogenous phytohormone ethylene is known to stimulate abscission of leaves. Then is accumulation of compatible solutes. The compatible solutes, uh, this accumulation actually is one important stress resistant mechanism. That is, at mild water stresses, the amino acid proline, glycine, betaine, and sugar alcohol sorbitol also accumulate in cytoplasm. These compounds are called compatible solutes, which contribute to osmotic adjustment of cells and help in maintain plant water balance. It is similar to the xerophytes that I have told you earlier. And then decreased photosynthesis, translocation of assimilates, and respiration. when levels of water stresses are higher, that is very low water content is there, then the photosynthesis, translocation of organic solutes in phloem uh, is markedly reduced, including transpiration. So let us summarize the whole thing that we have discussed. Water stressed plant can be recovered on watering if the stress was not severe and the plant has not been permanently wilted. Growth and yield of water stressed plant is always lower in comparison to unstressed one. Therefore, responses of plants to water stress may ap- appear elastic at first glance, but in fact, in terms of final yield, they are plastic. If tolerance of a plant increases as a result of exposure to prior stress, the plant is said to be hardened or acclimated. And water stress is a very important factor with respect to agriculture and also environment. And we have discussed the effects of this on the crop yield because it reduces the crop yield and then the agriculture produce. And there are many mechanisms in plants, especially in xerophytes and mesophytes, to cope up with this stress. That is especially the water stress. So, students, let us have one question now. In multiple choice question, I'm giving you ability of plants to adjust with stresses is called what? You have to answer this question, that is stress tolerance. And that's it for this session. And let us concentrate on the heat and heat stress in the next class or in the next session, and salinity stress also. Thank you for patient listening.